Welcome everyone to City Council's briefing session for November 2nd. Thanks for waiting for us. We've had some updates on WebEx, and so we're experimenting with different audio. I'll first start off with the clerk reading the roll.
Council President Biggs.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Present.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Present.
Councilmember Mumm.
Here.
Councilmember Stratton.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Present.
Let the record reflect that all council members are present.
All right, great. I'll turn it over to City Attorney Michael Ormsby for the advanced agenda of November 9th.
Thank you, Council President and members of the Council. On the consent agenda for next week, under reports, contracts, and claims, the first recommendation is for a consultant agreement, and Mike Sloan from IT is here to present this update.
Thanks, Mr. Ormsby. Council President, council members, thank you. Item 1 is a request for approval for an amendment to a contract for Justware with Journal Technology. It's for the legal case management software. And more specifically, we're asking for an additional $85,000 extension. It's required to provide additional configuration and functionality of the e-probation module in support of the probation department business processes. So this additional $85,000 to the original contract extended over the work effort in the next year and a half. We'd appreciate your approval of this extension.
Any questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike.
Thank
you. The next two items, Dusty Fredrickson from the Performance Management Office is here to present those items. One is a contract extension, and the other is budget for the PMO for contractual service fund.
Thank you, Mr. Ormsby. Good afternoon, Council President, Council members. Item number 2 is for $117,000 funding for Infinite Innovations. They are a partner of ours that we use to help us with support of Justware and its operation. We are reallocating capacity from the Justware, our typical Justware support team, to the E-Series project. And we're using Infinite Innovations as a backfill capacity source for us. The second one, number 3, is for funding for a Volt contract. This is to support our ongoing work with the Volt contractors we have on the project, the E-Series project, to provide technical project management and technical report and document writing. Again, this is a strategy for us to help augment our team capacity in an effort to fast track the remainder of the project. Any questions?
Any questions for Dusty? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a proposed consulting contract with Osborne Consulting Engineers to perform a stormwater study, and Mark Papich is here to present this item.
Good afternoon. Item number 4 is for approval of a consulting contract with Osborne Consulting to complete a stormwater study in the northwest area of the city. The cost of the study is $167,565. Plus a $20,000 administrative reserve. Any questions on that?
This is Karen. I have just a quick question.
Sure.
On Osborne Consulting, are they local?
They are.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And next, we have 3 multifamily housing property tax exemption agreements, and Allie Brast is here to present these 3 projects.
Yes, good afternoon, council members. Mike, I don't know, I reached out to Carrie Pfister because it looks like the 3rd item, it has the wrong ownership name. So I provided her with the correct ownership name, but just wanted to call that out.
Right, and Allie, the clerk's office did send out a correction that on the C project, it should be Ballymon LLC instead of Xavier Properties. So yes, that went to the council earlier today,
okay,
but thank
perfect.
you for doing that.
Thank you. So I have 3 contracts. I'll share my screen here with you. Okay. So are you able to see the Ruby Townhomes?
Yes.
Okay, so the first contract is for the Ruby Townhomes located at 6030 North Ruby. It's just north there of Holy Family Hospital. The applicant's proposing 7 new units and is intending the 12-year tax exemption. And so they're actually under construction on that project currently. The second application is the Wall Street Townhomes. This is proposed to be a new 4-plex north of North Central High School there. And this applicant is intending for the units all to be market rate, so they're not going for the 12-year tax exemption. And the third application, as I mentioned earlier, is the Ballymun Apartments. It's a site there on 5th Avenue between Sherman and Arthur. It currently has a single-family residence on the site that's vacant. The owner will be tearing down the single-family home and is intending to build 12 new units on the parcel. They are intending to go for the 12-year tax exemption on that project. So those are the 3 applications. Any questions?
Thank you, Allie.
Thanks.
Next, we have a proposed memorandum of understanding between the Downtown Library and Public Works regarding the transfer of budget to do some landscaping work around the Downtown Library building. Mark Sabozic is here from engineering to present that.
Good afternoon, Council President, Council. Item number 6 is a memorandum of understanding between the Downtown Library and Public Works to transfer funds to the library to finish the landscaping surrounding the library and to finish paving the south half of Lincoln Street as part of the CSO 26 project. It is in the amount of approximately $400,000.
Seeing no questions, thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Next, we have a proposed grant award acceptance from Kaiser Permanente, and Tisha Danzig from CHHS is here to present this item.
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, Council President and Council members. We would like approval on the grant agreement with Kaiser Permanente, and in accordance with that, budget capacity for $150,000 in funds to prevent and respond to the spread of COVID-19 amongst homeless populations, and to subgrant these funds to homeless service providers to support their COVID-19 prevention and response efforts. Are there any questions related to that?
Okay, thanks, Tisha. And there will be a special budget ordinance later on the agenda that will match that. And then finally, we have the report of the mayor, the placeholder for the report of the mayor on claims and payments for all city departments, including parks and libraries, and also for payroll claims. And then finally, the placeholder for city council meeting minutes, and both of those will be filled in prior to next week's meeting. Now we go to the legislative agenda for next week's meeting. And first is the, under special budget ordinances, is the special budget ordinance to deal with the allocation of the grant funds that Tisha just explained. And next we have the resolution, then we go to resolutions and final reading ordinances. First is a resolution approving the appointment of a division director for neighborhood housing and human services, and Amber Richards, our HR director, is here to present that item, which was also presented at committee this afternoon.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Council President and Council members. We are going to be bringing forward a confirmation for Mr. Cupid Alexander for the Neighborhood Housing and Human Services Division Director position next week for your confirmation. There was some information, just general information about the department restructure and the recruitment process in the briefing packet, and just wanted to follow up with some additional information in case there's questions. Following the interview process, Mayor Woodward appointed Cupid Alexander to serve as the Neighborhood Housing and Human Services Division Director. Mr. Alexander was an impressive candidate all around. He holds a master's degree in public administration and a graduate degree in real estate development. He also has an undergrad degree in business administration. Mr. Alexander has demonstrated leadership experience coupled with a strong background in public policy development and execution, as well as community and stakeholder engagement related to housing and human services initiatives, specifically regarding executing tenant protections, inclusionary housing, and tax increment funded housing and developments. His most recent experience was serving as the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the Office of the Mayor in the City of Portland. And as I mentioned earlier, he regularly invests in the profession, having participated in a number of high-profile speaking engagements. He's also actively involved with a number of professional associations and has received numerous awards for his work. Perhaps most notable is the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials National Emerging Leader Award, which he received in 2018. So I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you might have at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
Next, we have a resolution incorporating amendments to street projects listed in the citywide capital improvement program, and Council President Beggs is presenting this item, which also relates to a hearing item that we'll cover later in the meeting.
We have put this resolution just to make it crystal clear that the projects council added back in June to the transportation portion of the capital improvement plan should be included in the final CIP. And so we're going to pass, well, I should say we're going to consider, and I assume pass, the same projects we passed earlier. And then we're also going to make a brief amendment to the formal CIP and acknowledge the projects, and also that they are consistent with the comprehensive plan, so that the state grant funders are confident that they are, and we've fully considered it and determined that. So it's mostly just housekeeping, but just trying to make a record.
Any questions for Council President? Okay, great. The next item is part of one of the annual resolutions for the council to consider in conjunction with the budgeting process. And this is deals with the property tax levy for 2021. And Paul and Josie is here to present this item.
Good afternoon, President and council members. This item is a resolution declaring and finding a substantial need for the purpose of setting the property tax for 2021. And the rate of inflation is under 1%. We need the legislative authority to declare a substantial need to levy the full 1% allowed under law. And that's what this item is.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Next, we have two resolutions relating to Public Works and Utilities, and Marlene Feist is here to present those on behalf of that division.
Good afternoon, Council. These are the last two items that go with the water wastewater rate setting for this year. These two resolutions essentially set the rates in a public rule for two different things. One is for our pretreatment program, and one is for our water tap and meter installation services. So those are fees for service, and we're setting those off in a public rule so that we have a little more flexibility. We still have to come to council and have those updated, but it's not codified in the SMC. So those require a resolution by council to approve, and they will go with about another half dozen ordinances that you'll see a little later related to water and wastewater rates.
Okay. Great. Any questions? Okay. Next, and Council President, looks as though there's a request here to consider a substitute ordinance for Ordinance 35456.
Yeah, this is a alley vacation, and so they're just updating the technical details of it for our consideration next week. I'm looking for a motion to substitute the one that was distributed. Let's see, let me get it right here. So was the new one distributed on October 28th?
Yes.
Yeah, so the new one was distributed on October 28th. I'm looking for a motion to substitute that one for the one that was originally filed.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of substituting the version, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, nay. All right. It is substituted. And Eldon, you can tell us all about
Great.
it now.
Eldon, you have the next three items, so you're on a roll here.
Yeah, good afternoon, Council. What we're doing on these is we're doing final readings of some street vacations. This first one was an old one, and I'll share my screen. Now, this was an alley out there between 4th and 5th, from Brown to McClellan. It's where the Spokane Behavioral Health Clinic was built. We had that hearing back in 2016, and the reason we had to modify that ordinance on there, we actually were able to get rid of the easements we had for Avista and one we had with the city for stormwater on there. They were able to handle the stormwater on site without discharging or metering that into our system. So we eliminated those items out of there as far as the chain of easements, and that's what that revised ordinance is all about. Anyway, they did fulfill all their conditions. We did have an original fee, I think it was $78,000 on that one, and they paid that fee years gone by, and we were researching files and found out we hadn't did the final reading. So we're bringing that forward to do the final reading. Should be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Second one we have here is an alley out here just west of 195, and that's just north of 14th Avenue. And this was another one on here this one we had a more recent hearing on there in January of this year. And basically we had no utilities or anything in that alley. We did have a fee of $3,300 for vacating that alley, but we don't have any easements to retain. It was fairly clean ordinance. Here to do the final reading. They paid the fee, and we're just ready for the final reading of that ordinance on that one. Be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Trying to get our last one up here. It's not letting me bring the last one up, but this is an alley that we had up in the northeast part of town. We just recently had the hearing on this alley between Bismarck and Central from Sycamore to Julia. And this is one we did as a no-cost vacation. It was done with the non-user statute on there. And so basically the applicant, we are retaining easements for CenturyLink, Avista, and Comcast for this alley, but it was a no-fee vacation through that non-user statute. So I would be happy to answer any questions on that one if you have any. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Eldon. The next item is an ordinance that Council President has already referred to with the resolution he presented and a hearing that is set for next week. And so when we get back to the hearing section, Paul will brief further on this ordinance. The next ordinance relates to pre-treatment requirements, and Mike Cannon and Marlene Feist, one or both of them are presenting on this. I don't see Mike, so Marlene.
Yeah, so these were all presented last week by Scott. So this will be the final reading for these ordinances on November 9th. Pre-treatment deals with a number of changes that have happened at the state and federal level related to pre-treatment programs. So those will be amended in the SMC. And then the next 4 items are related to rates for our water and wastewater utilities, and some changes to the capital rates to account for capital charges for water-only and sewer-only customers, and finally, for setting rates inside our public development authorities.
Any additional questions from Marlene on these items? Okay, next is an ordinance updating the City of Spokane's property tax levy for 2021. And Paul Josie from the Budget Office is here to present this item.
Good afternoon again, Council President and City Council members. This is the annual ordinance to adopt the levy rates for 2021 for the City of Spokane.
Okay. Then we move to first reading ordinances. And the first is a long-awaited one, and that is renewing the non-exclusive franchise agreement to Comcast Cable Communications Management, and Marlene Feist is here to present this item.
Hello, Council. Again, so this is our long-awaited franchise with Comcast. It's our cable television franchise. It has, as you know, this is a non-exclusive franchise to provide such services within the City of Spokane and to use our right-of-way to do so. Some of the highlights, this franchise is for 10 years. It includes a franchise fee of 5% to the city, as well as the utility tax of 6%. We have 6 PEG channels, including our own City Cable 5, both in standard definition and in HD. We have support for those public education and government access channels with a 0.7% of gross revenues for paid capital costs. And this technology is a hybrid system, a coax and fiber to the node system. So it's providing good speeds in our community and is an option that's been around for a number of years. Comcast service area already includes the whole city. And this is consistent with the TDS franchise for cable services that the council adopted in February of this year. Because it's a franchise, this will have first reading next week, and then it goes into a publication phase for 4 weeks, and then we'll come back to you in December for final reading.
Okay. Thank you, Marlene. And now we move into the public hearings aspect of the meeting next week, and we're back to Paul and Josie for the next 2 items. The first deals with the citywide capital improvement program, and the second is a continuation of the public hearing on next year's budget. Paul.
Good afternoon again, and as Mike just described accurately, the first is the final reading ordinance for the 2021 through 2026 capital improvement program, and the second item is the continuation of the public hearing on the 2021 proposed budget.
And Council President, that concludes the presentation of the advanced agenda for next week.
Is there a motion to approve the advanced agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Councilmember Wilkerson seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? All right. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The advanced agenda is approved. That brings us to this evening's agenda, and we have some requests on the consent agenda to add matters. And the first, well, do we have to add October 19th, or is that just left off? Minutes?
That was in the packet, but left off the agenda. The minutes were actually in the packet,
Okay.
but it was left off the.
Well, let's just clean that up. So item number 12 on the consent agenda, City Council meeting minutes for October 19th, 2020 were included in the packet, but they were left off the title. So I'm looking for a motion to add October 19th, 2020 amendments to item number 12.
So moved. Second, I just want to clarify, you mean the 22nd? You mean October 19th and 22nd?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I heard a motion. I'm not sure who said second. Did someone say second? Well, okay.
I thought she made the motion.
You made the motion. I'll second it for discussion purposes. All right, any discussion about that amendment, proposed amendment? Hearing, seeing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Aye.
Any abstentions? All right, that's added. Whew. Then we have a very long amendment, and I'm going to ask for item 13. I'm going to ask Ms. Pfister to read it, and then ask someone to make a motion to add it as read, if that makes sense.
Item 13, contract amendments for increase in CARES Act funding to A, Spokane Arts, $155,000. B, Martin Luther King Jr. Family Outreach Center, $33,250. C, Wishing Star Foundation, $10,000. D, Mid-City Concerns Doing Business as Meals on Wheels, $50,000. E, West Central Community Center, $5,680. F, Southwest Community Center, $8,721.30. G, YMCA, $111,492. H, Northeast Community Center, $40,000. I, Volunteers of America of Eastern Washington and Northern Idaho, $31,000. J, Spokane Public Schools, $101,000. K, Women Helping Women, $10,000. L, Spokane Independent Metro Business Alliance, $124,000. M, If You Could Save Just One, $9,988.33. And N, Smith Barbieri Foundation as fiscal agent for Feast Collective, $20,030.24.
Is there a motion to add that to the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of adding that to the consent agenda as item number 13 indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? All right, that's added. And then could you go ahead, Ms. Pfister, and read item 14, a proposed amendment?
Item number 14, purchase from Key Code Media, Kent, Washington, of live captioning equipment accessing Omnia Partners contract number 2019.001407, $61,148.27.
And this would be another CARES Act allocation, but it would be to our Channel 5 to allow us to finally do closed captioning, which people have been requesting for a long time. So is there a motion to accept that amendment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? Okay. That's great. Then I think we have a few more agenda items, but let's go ahead and read and consider the consent agenda.
And I apologize, but I think we missed a motion to suspend the council rules to add those items. Do you
We did.
Just
Is there a motion to suspend the council rules
Yes, move
that
to
would
suspend.
allow the amendments that we just made to be accepted?
I move to suspend and accept the amendments to 13 and 14.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of suspending the rules, including the acceptance of those motions that we just made. I'm going to add number 12 as a friendly. Would you accept that, Candace, or Councilmember Mumm? She said yes. And Ms. Stratton as a second? Okay. All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? All right. So the rules are suspended, including the acceptance of the amendments for 12, 13, and 14.
Reports, contracts, and claims. Number 1, grant award from the Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs to expand Spokane Community Court into the East Central Neighborhood, $166,048 revenue. Relates to Special Budget Ordinance C 35957, which will be considered during the 6 p.m. legislative session. Number 2, purchase of Ice Kicker, a salt-based product with anti-corrosive inhibitors from Salt Distributors Incorporated, Spokane, Washington, for the street department on an as-needed basis, not to exceed $100,000 annually. Item number 3 has been moved to the 6 p.m. legislative session under special considerations. Item number 4, purchases by Fleet Services for the wastewater department using Washington State Contract number 122017-FSC of A, combination cleaner body from Owen Equipment, $353,390.17, including tax. B, combination cleaner chassis from Kenworth Sales, Spokane, Washington, $163,674, including tax. Item number 5, purchase by Fleet Operations for the wastewater department from Kenworth Sales, Spokane, Washington, of a mechanical rotor for the wastewater department using Washington State Contract number 12-2017 SCA, $329,259.44, including tax. Item number 6, value blanket with National Filter Media, Olive Branch, Massachusetts, for the purchase of fabric filter bags for the waste energy facility for a 2-year term from January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2022, $300,000, including tax. Item number 7, contract renewals numbers 1 of 4 for the waste energy facility with A, online cleaning services, Marysville, California, for boiler blast cleaning services from January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2021, not to exceed $300,000, including tax. B, Wemco Incorporated, Spokane, Washington, for crane hoist, trolley, and lifeline preventative maintenance and inspections from January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2021, not to exceed $60,000, including tax. C, Wemco Incorporated, Spokane, Washington, for bridge crane maintenance and inspections from January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2021, not to exceed $100,000, including tax. Item number 8, interlocal agreement with Spokane School District number 81 for the engineering, construction, management, office relocation project, construction of new office space within the building shell of the Fleet Building in order to accommodate engineering, construction management staff and water department staff, $1,500,000. Item number 9, contract for Federal CARES Act funding from Spokane County for Housing and Human Services to improve homeless shelters, $1,600,000, relates to Special Budget Ordinance C 35966. Item number 10, First Amendment to Purchase and Sale Agreement with Gonzaga Haven LLC to provide for amendments to Exhibit A and to extend closing date. Item number 11, report of the mayor of pending claims and payments of previously approved obligations, including those of Parks and Library through October 26, 2020, total $12,945,577.76 with Parks and Library claims. Approved by the respective boards. Warrants excluding Parks and Library total $11,078,753.19. Item number 12, City Council meeting minutes for October 19 and October 22nd, 2020. Items number 13 and 14 are as read previously when they were added to the agenda.
All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as read, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? All right. Consent agenda is approved. Super excited for all that CARES money coming out into the community and helping all those great nonprofits. All right, we have 2 potential items to handle. One is there is a resolution number 2020-0080 regarding private armed militias, and we had some requests from City Legal and the Downtown Spokane Partnership, and the DSP wanted to make it clear that not just that would they condemn that they never wanted private militias downtown, and they thought by not saying that we were implying perhaps that they at one time did. So we've made some changes. It's been circulated, and I'm looking for a motion to substitute the version that was circulated for the one that was originally filed.
So moved.
I'll second it. Okay, there was someone else seconded. Who else seconded? Was that Kate or not? Kate, great.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion about the substitution? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor of substituting the version indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay?
Council President.
Yes.
Council
Councilmember
President.
Wilkerson.
You're on a roll. You're on a roll today. I would like to make an amendment to that. What would you like me to do that?
Well, let me finish this vote, and then you can make an amendment. I'll let you make an amendment. Well, let's see. You would like to make an amendment to the substituted version?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe I got the last one.
Okay. What's the amendment that you propose?
So I'd like to, in the last paragraph, where it calls the rule of law and calls on the leadership of downtown business organizations to refrain at all times from calling on armed militia, I'd like to change that to calls on the downtown businesses to refrain at all times. So I'd like to strike the leadership organization from that sentence.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay. Anyone have any questions about substituting businesses for business leadership organizations? All right. Any discussion about that? All right. So this is a motion to make the language change offered by Councilmember Wilkerson. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? All right, so that is now part of the proposed substitute version that we're about to vote on. Any further discussion about the substitute version with the amended language? All right, hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of substituting the version indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, any abstentions? Okay, so that's substituted, and we'll work in between now and 6 just to circulate with that new language, just so everybody has it in front of them. I appreciate that. Yes, Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, it was mentioned several times in our committee today that it's really unclear how or even if this can be enforced. And so I would just make a motion to defer a week while perhaps there be some additional discussions to see how this could actually be legally enforced.
Second.
Great. There's a motion and a second to defer for a week. Any discussion? Councilmember Wilkerson.
I understand the lack of clarity, but I believe from our position as leadership, our community is looking for a statement from us that we do not support this. And this is our way of letting them know that it is not welcome in our city. I know we heard from Chief Miles today about the lack of clarity and what all that entails, but at some point, this council needs to say, we do not support this in our city. And we've all received the emails about the concern around the elections. And so I understand your deferral, but I think it needs to be said now, whether we can enforce it to its full extent or not. I think we just need to go forward and say something.
Councilmember Cathcart.
I guess in response, I would simply say that I believe all of us signed a letter back in June denouncing these activities, and there is yet to be a single reoccurrence of this since that letter was signed and submitted to the public. I continue to stand by that. We don't want to see these sorts of groups or individuals downtown creating distractions for our law enforcement or anything else. But if we're going to be calling upon SPD to enforce this, then there needs to be a very clear path for them to do that. And I think that that's the difference between this resolution and perhaps that letter.
I saw Councilmember Kinnear first, and after her, Councilmember Stratton. Councilmember Kinnear.
So in talking to Mr. Ormsby, 1 week's not going to be enough for them, both legal and police, to come up with a plan to enforce. So by deferring a week, we're going to come back in a week and we're still not going to have a path forward And I think Councilmember Wilkerson is correct. The community is looking for us to make a statement, to take a stand against this kind of behavior. I understand we already signed a letter, but with all the recent activities and things that have happened around this election, I think this is one more way that we can say to the community that we hear you, we're looking out for you, and we need to take a stand. So a week would not be enough.
Councilmember Stratton.
I will just reiterate what I said during study session. There is great fear in the community from individuals and groups that are still publicly posting their positions on Facebook that are threatening and that are intimidating. And at some point, we need to deal with this, and we need to make sure the community knows that we have an eye on this, and this is something that we take seriously. I also think that we need to, while people have a right to carry weapons in public, I think that's different than what their conduct is. And if I'm downtown and there is somebody standing on a street corner with a rifle, that's intimidating to me. And that is going to force me to leave downtown afraid and intimidating. So I think we need to stick with this. We need to push it. We need to let the community know that we support protecting our citizens, whether it's in a peaceful protest or standing in line to vote or going to a ballot box. So I'm going to support this, and I think we need to get on with it and have the discussions as a community with the police department and ensure that every citizen in our community that is walking out and about in our community is safe.
Council President?
Yes, Councilmember Burke and then Councilmember Mumm.
Thank you. I'll just say that, we talk about this constitutionality a lot, and I guess I just wonder why we aren't having this discussion about people who are experiencing homelessness if we're having this discussion about gun rights, because to me, it's the same issue. We practice the Constitution on people who we decide or choose to and not. And in this instance, I am in full support of this resolution. I think we have the tools to move forward to make our community safe, and we need to do it now. And this addresses that concern. We could also open up the discussion about sit and lie and how that's unconstitutional, but we have chosen as a council to not look at that. And so I would just urge us to really take into consideration the real issue at hand. It's safety and community safety. And there are community members who are struggling and stressed and anxious about what tomorrow is going to bring. And this is our way in our community to make it a safe place. And so I think we really need to think about that as a body.
Councilmember Mumm.
So my concern and why I supported the deferment, which, if everybody wants to vote on it, fine. But my problem is with one of the last paragraphs that talks about directing the city attorney and city prosecutor to consider changing some language or helping us change language in the municipal code, which I don't think we need to do. I think we've already got the law in the books. It's just a matter of discussing the enforcement. So I don't really, that was my heartache here. So I guess we can talk about that at 6 o'clock, but I'd rather have a conversation with them. Do we even need to have that in there?
All right. And I do support this resolution, and I support doing it at this time since people are concerned. And I would just note that by this resolution coming forward, this law that's been on the books for 100 years is being looked at now by our police department and city legal. And so we've already created some progress there. It looks like there's some more work. I would just say it gives them another tool that they weren't aware of before. But I do, as I said earlier today, want to support them and giving them the knowledge they need to do it. But that ends the debate on whether to defer for a week or not. And so let's vote. It'll be a voice vote. If you're in favor of deferring this for 1 week, please indicate by saying aye. I think you're muted, Mr. Cathcart, but I got the aye. Okay.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay.
Nay.
Nay. Nay.
Nay. Or any abstentions? All right. Motion
Council
fails. Great conversation by all perspectives. So
Council President.
Yes, Councilmember Cathcart.
Sir, I would like to make another motion that just to illuminate, I guess, a lot of these discussions, make sure we can have the most robust debate or discussion this evening, and just to ensure transparency that we would waive attorney-client privilege on the memo prepared by our city attorney so that the public can see the same information that's been shared with us.
Okay, so that's a motion. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there, I would like to hear from our city attorney, Mr. Ormsby, about his thoughts about that before people start debating it.
As your attorney, and you own the privilege, we don't own it. I would just say I would feel very uncomfortable with waiving the privilege on any documents that are prepared by us for our clients, you. Again, though you own the privilege, so you can waive it if you want. I would just say do that very carefully and cautiously, because it could well be used against the city in litigation.
I'll just chime in. I share that for several reasons. Anything that comes out of our city attorney's office, if it made public, can be used against us, whether or not it's accurate. And I feel like we're still in the middle of conversations back and forth within the privilege of that. And I would urge people to at least wait until that conversation is complete, and then we could consider presenting a document to the public, if that's what the council wants to do, that's been fully vetted back and forth. Right now, I'm not sure that it's complete, but that's just me. Other commentary on that motion to waive attorney-client privilege for documents related to the analysis of this resolution? Okay, seeing and hearing none. All those who are in favor of waiving the attorney-client privilege on this matter indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
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 All right, any abstentions? All right. Motion does not pass. But this is a great precursor for a conversation, debate later this evening, which will probably be the highlight of the legislative session. So again, appreciate everyone's perspective on that. And Madam Clerk, just to make sure, we did the motion, we passed it to substitute, right? Those motions came after that?
Yes.
I just want to make sure. Okay. All right. I have a question for Paul and Josie. Last meeting, some of us were a little confused about whether or not we needed to continue the hearing for revenue sources, and we did. And I just want to hear from you whether or not you think we should close that. We'll do it. Well, what your thoughts are on that, because I don't know that you actually asked us to, but we, at least for myself, I was confusing the regular hearings on the proposed budget of whether or not we should keep it open, because usually we do so week after week, but maybe not for the revenue one. But could you just tell us? We'll probably not going to do anything about it at this meeting, but I just would like to hear from you before, so I'll be more confident when I bring it up at 6 p.m.
No problem. Thank you, Council President. So the revenue hearing is something that's required by RCW. You can close that one. It's separate and distinct from the budget hearings.
Okay.
So at the conclusion of the presentation and public testimony from last week, that hearing can be closed.
And if we wanted to take other revenue actions before we pass the budget, do we need to keep that hearing open just in case, or can we reopen it, if you know?
I think the purpose of the revenue hearing is really tied to the property tax.
Okay.
So if there are no other changes to that, you can close that and then pass the ordinance next week.
All right. Thank you. All right. Unless anyone else has any other business, not seeing any, we'll adjourn. We'll see everyone at 6 p.m. If you're a member of the public and want to testify tonight, we're going to have the sign-up sheet open at 5 o'clock from 5 to 6. And we'll take that and use that for testimony tonight. So thanks, everyone. We'll see you at 6 p.m. We're adjourned.